Lebanon, THW Insurance Services, Cumberland University's Athletic Department, and DT McCall and Sons, Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Franklin, and Cookeville. I want to say thanks particularly to Daryl Tidwell, loan originator with Southern Bank of Tennessee. Please remember, if you or someone you know is thinking about buying or refinancing a home, give Daryl a call just to talk about it. He loves helping people with their home mortgage needs. Call 615-758-6800 and Daryl will help you out. And stepping out of the bullpen tonight, Richard and Thomas with OAG Productions handling everything behind the scenes tonight, as our number one guy, Justin Kulik, is unavailable tonight. He's on special assignment and unable to be here this evening. My first guest kicking off this year, Chuck Gentry up in the first spot. Chuck, how are you, pal?
I'm okay, Tommy. Glad to be here.
Well, you're battling a little bit yourself, but season's right on top of us. How has fall camp been for the Blue Devils?
Well, it's been eventful, rainy, hot, all the stuff to go with it. But we've had a good fall camp. Been relatively injury-free. I had a few nicks and bumps and sprains, but for the most part, knock on wood, we've been injury-free, and hopefully we can continue to stay that way. But with a I'm not going to say young group, but an inexperienced group, we felt like we've been getting better as we go, learning more and more about us and learning how to practice.
I watched the Jamboree when you had the freshmen on the field, then the JV, and then the varsity. And there are drastic differences between the three, and that's kind of the way it's supposed to be, because you get those ninth graders in, and some of them, you're starting from scratch. And then by the time they get to the JV stage, they've been through a lot. They've learned their lessons and maybe have learned how to practice. And then the varsity is a whole different thing. Talk about the way you guys at Lebanon work that progression from when they get there as ninth graders to when they're on the field for you on Friday night.
Well, we do it a little different. When we have the varsity and the JV on one end and the freshmen on the other, sometimes the sophomores will switch over with the freshmen, play a little bit and scrimmage with them. But for the most part, the freshmen get a lot of attention from varsity coaches to get them taking those baby steps and then getting them from crawling to walking to hopefully running as they go. And then, the JV, we try to give them reps as we're going, especially fall camp and all that stuff, and 7-on-7s and stuff to see how they're progressing. And then, you earn your varsity time. The scout team is a wonderful thing. It's a necessary evil to some of those sophomores and juniors to get out there every day and go against our ones, and that's where we find confidence and maturity in those young men to be able to keep progressing up the ladder.
As we watched that Jamboree against Laverne, we saw some mistakes with that ninth grade bunch. They'd blow snap counts. They'd move too soon. Not everybody getting off at the same time. Then in the JV, you saw a lot less of that. And then the varsity played a clean half. Again, you learn as you go. And some of those missteps, that's part of the process.
And it is. Guys that make millions and millions of dollars mess up.
Yeah.
They miss tackles, they miss blocks, they blow assignments, they throw interceptions. Then they also make plays. And it's, you just got to learn. Every day is a learning process. And again, learning how to practice, learning how to take coaching, learning how to mess up and keep playing, learning how to finish, all those things. And it's a process. Our freshmen played their first game last night, beat Wilson Central 20-6. It was ugly, very ugly. But, we had some turnovers, some bad snaps, some mistakes, but we also had a kick return for a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown, and then eventually the offense got it in the end zone, and then, played some good defense for the most part. And so just a learning curve. And so this year's a little different. We're playing on Monday nights with our region. JV plays at 6. Freshmen play right after them at 7. So it's one night one big deal, and hopefully we can get that rolling. We play Mount Juliet Monday night at Lebanon, so if you want to get some Monday night football in before the real Monday night football starts, you can come and see them, and 6 o'clock JV, 7 o'clock freshmen, and we'll be glad to have you out supporting those young men.
While I've got a second here, let me run through this. Coaches Night Out airs on 3 different Facebook platforms, including the Wilson Post, Main Street Preps, and Blue Devil Broadcaster. You can also find this show on Twitter, known as X now, at TB Sports 85, and on the Main Street Media TV app. Week 1, here's the schedule. Thursday night, and as we work this show on Wednesday night, Cane Ridge at Mount Juliet. That's going to be a MyTV 30 game. And then on Friday, the bullets start flying around for real. Forest at Watertown, Republic, that's a charter school out of Nashville, at Mount Juliet Christian, Lebanon at Antioch, Green Hill at Northeast, Wilson Central at Rossview, and Friendship Christian at Clarksville Academy. So that's 3 schools making the trip to Montgomery County. Chuck, as we sit here right now, it's going to be a different Lebanon football team than what we've had in the last, well, let's say 3 years. Certainly, you won 20 games over the last 2 years. This is a brand new bunch, basically. And it starts at quarterback, because I can't recall you ever having two guys share time at quarterback, and you're going to do that some, particularly in the early going.
Yeah, we have 2 young men that have both battled really hard to be the starting quarterback, and they both have their own strengths and weaknesses. They both do some things well. One does one thing better than the other some days, and it's just and we haven't come down to the who is the guy, and at that position it's hard not to have the guy. But at any other position, we'd let them battle it out and go. And so I'm not in a hurry to pick a starter. They both are, gonna play and do things that we need them to do. And so I've told them both be a good teammate, support each other, and whatever I ask you to do it. And when you don't do that, then we'll have problems. But as long as you do that and do your thing, then we're fine. And they both have had good moments in the preseason, and so. Again, it's kind of a work in progress, I guess you'd say.
And you told me that you can still run what you do offensively, what you have done going into your 7th season, with either guy at the controls. Now, maybe we won't have the 65-yard bomb that quarterback number 1, Jalen Abston, used to throw, but it'll be a little bit different.
Yeah, I've said this from 3 years ago. Jalen Abston is Jalen Abston. You've been around Lebanon a lot longer than I have, and he's not come through here very often.
I've called him a generational quarterback.
And so I'm not asking either one of these kids to be Jalen Abston, and I said those are shoes that you don't want to try to fill. You be you, and we will. Our identity will go from Kason Kincaid and Isaiah Mariah, and go from there. And it's just like you can say that about Anthony Crowell. If you look at our offensive line, we've got Ball State, Mississippi Valley State, Chattanooga. They're not there either. There's David Aluyas at the Taft School, and going to be in Cornell in a year. So those guys are Nolan Sanderford played every snap. We're not asking anybody to be those guys. We're a new bunch, and I have kind of downplayed it. Everybody asks me, well, yeah, I'm going to miss them, they're gone. But, I've told our team, the standard hasn't changed. We haven't changed. We're not going to change. We still expect to be Lebanon football, and we expect to win. And I don't care who's taking the snaps. I don't care who's blocking. I don't care who's running. I don't care who's playing defense. That's what we want. That's the standard, and I'm not going to deviate from that. It may happen, may not, but just because those guys walked out the door, still talk to them daily, checking in, checking up, but next man up, and let's go play.
Jack Kleinert is a guy on the defensive side of the football, Chuck, who played with his hand in the dirt for a couple of years, and now he has transitioned to a linebacker position, and you like him there.
Well, yeah, Jack's been a 3-year starter as a freshman. We said, if you want to play fast. I know you want to be a linebacker. Go down there and put your hand in the ground. Let Coach Williams teach you. And he took off running. Has been defensive lineman of the year. But for Jack to play at the next level, we feel like he's probably a stand-up guy. So we decided in the spring, let's give him a chance, be fair to him, and see what happens. And then he knows it may be a split second. Hey, go put your hand back now. But we're gonna let it play out and see. And he's had a really good fall camp. And there's going to be some running backs that wish he had his hand in the ground, where he's not getting a full head of steam running and hitting you, because he's worked hard in the off season. Big, thick, looks good, runs good, and we expect a lot out of him this year.
Binkard next to him is a guy that's played a lot of football for you.
Yeah, Binkard, 140 pounds soaking wet. We kid with him all the time. How'd you play middle linebacker last year? But he's a kid that he's a coach pleaser. He's very smart, very active, very tough, instinctive, and we're doing some different things with him. He's playing, safety, roll down safety, will linebacker, devil. He's just a football player, and I'm sure he's going to be running around a lot, making a lot of plays.
Defensive front, you're probably going to play some kids both ways, which is kind of new for you.
Yeah, we've had the luxury to have a lot of big kids and be able to play some tougher athletic kids at D lineman, and our offensive linemen not have to play D line from that. But right now we've got 2 offensive linemen that are going to play some defensive tackle, nose guard, and we'll sub them in and out and see. And if they rest, they'll rest on defense. But we're trying to get the best people on the field, and if that means you play both ways, you play both ways. So that's what we, again, Jace Gardner and Aaron Mills are both going to get that opportunity to see. Jack Kleinert will play both ways. Key Crowd, Damian Callaway will play both ways at times, and then there's times when they won't. They play defense and drink a little water, or play offense and drink a little water. So it's just a chess match, I guess you say, to keep everybody healthy, keep their reps up, keep them in shape, and get the best mix for the time.
You got some depth at the running back position, and it starts with Sean Heath, who went for 1,000 last year. There are some guys that in the preseason have gone back there and played for you.
Yeah, Sean Heath coming back off a 1,000-yard season, a good back, good vision, worked extremely hard on his speed. If you look at him from last year to this year, it looks like he's reshaped his body a little bit. So him and Jack Kleinert and Kason Kincaid spent a lot of time outside of our facility at Sports Village, doing some of the bro lifts, and they look good, and it's a testament to their dedication and to do that. But Sean is running back number 1, and he's one of those he's done a good job at corner, but you rest on defense and you're our tailback, and we'll see how that goes. But behind him you have Andrew Hodge, who's also plays sniffer and linebacker for us. And then Jordan Jewell, who also, didn't play last year because of his Tommy John surgery. He's back, and he's playing tailback and linebacker, and was a major cog in that freshman class 3 years ago of running the ball downhill and look good. And then you've got senior Ashton Steverson, who's probably the fastest player on the team, and then a transfer, C.J. Woodson from Laverne, who made 2 or 3 good runs, and then sophomore Jaden McGowan, who was the freshman tailback last year. So there's a lot of different people who can carry the football for us.
Aside from personnel, scheme-wise, defensively, you're still going to be doing a lot of the same things you've done in the past, right?
Yes, same 3-3 stack based, odd front, and we'll get in some even front based on what we're doing. Maybe a little more multiple and aggressive this year, based on being a little undersized over there and taking on the personality of some of our kids. We've done a good job in the scrimmages of being physical and getting after people, and that's what we expect. We teach trying to be physical, do your job, run to the football, all of that stuff, and then we also try to let our kids play to their personality, play to their strengths, and see how it goes within the confines of what we want to do.
Is the spring work you try to figure out who will hit, who's the physical guys. You learn that, and then you get into the fall, and you can't really kill them before you start playing real games.
Well, there's a fine line in all of that, Tommy, of don't get people hurt, don't get people banged up. Let's just take Jace Gardner. I've seen Jace Gardner play for 2 years in the offensive line. I didn't need to see a lot, but we did need to see him on defense. He did switch to offensive from center to offensive tackle. But then you got Aaron Mills, who really, really athletic young man, but we needed to see what he was. He started 2 games for us last year in the playoffs. So, then you got Sutton Hinsley stepping in at center. We had a battle there, and he won out and doing a good job. And then you got at left tackle you've got Gabe Allen, who we undersized, but in there fighting you. And then you got Giovanni Luna at left guard, who started 3 games at right guard last year. So we've got, there's some experience up there, but some of those guys needed the reps, needed the banging. Some of the others did not, and it's a fine line. A lot of our skill kids we knew could play. Who are their backups? Who can give them rest? Who can we count on? Said we play in the spring 3 quarterbacks, and all through the summer trying to see who's the guy, and it's just there's a fine line of all of that of let's get after it but don't get anybody hurt versus all right, let's go, let's ease back, we're ready to play, and it may be 3 more weeks and we're still banging at it pretty hard trying to figure out what it is. And then some teams learn how to play and learn how to practice, and you can be in shells and thud and stay up and you're okay, and it's different every year. And I guess we'll kind of see what it is, what we need as we keep going. Like Friday night, I thought we were decently physical and running to the football. Just a few things here and there, but decent. So we'll see how it goes.
It's early, way early. What do you know about Antioch? Have you been able to have a film swap with those guys?
We've film swapped. The buzz around Metro is that Antioch is much improved. Last 2 years ago they had 25 kids on the sideline. Last year they had about 45. They got about 70 right now. They've got some of the athletes out, some of them that's been out. They've got a big offensive defensive lineman's been recruited by Vanderbilt. They got a freshman quarterback who's supposed to be one of the best in Metro. So the buzz around them is they're better. We played them in the 7-on-7 at our place. Tough matchup, 7 overtimes to come out winners. But, no pads, no stuff. But they told us August 18th would be a war. We'll see you in Antioch. So I'm expecting to get their best effort. I'm expecting them to be rejuvenated and wanting to prove something. Again, on film, look much improved. 2 scrimmages versus Oakland and Ezell Hardin, and won both of those pretty handily. So we got some speed, some size. So in places, tough matchup for us. But we expect to go put our best foot forward and see what happens. I think our kids like the fact that they said we'll see you in Antioch on the 18th. Give us a little something to talk about this week.
Family Medical Associates and Pediatrics has jumped on board again for the 2nd consecutive year to partner with Shop Springs Creamery to be the official chocolate milk supplier of Lebanon High Blue Devil football, and the kids love it.
Yeah, quick funny story. I had to take this away from the kids. I got up after practice and they had wiped the refrigerators out. So Damian Calloway was nice enough to say, Coach, you can have mine. And Family Medical, they got their logo on it, nice enough to, and the kids love it. Matter of fact, this summer, we let the freshmen get involved, and just for quantity's sake, and during the season, we don't let the freshmen, unless they do something special, we'll give them a little treat. But they've been so disappointed when those guys go in and get that chocolate milk, and again, good chocolate milk, great taste, good calories, filling, and it does a lot for some of our young men that don't always have what they need at the house.
Team sponsors for meals this week: Thursday, Jeff Gannon, State Farm, and on Friday, the class of 2003, Taylor Vandiver, going to be providing team meals for the Blue Devils. You feed them on Thursday and Friday, and the kids this year, they've got a new locker room, and that was a big point of emphasis for you, Chuck, and it took a lot of folks to get that thing the way you want it.
A lot of folks, and if I say somebody, I'll miss them. But number one, Mark Wooten in his shop class, and Keegan Clark, who's senior last year, built those. Andy Manning with the sharp line paintings and painting them. Hometown Flooring for helping us with the floor, the checkerboard. Drip dry plumbing with the water fountain. Specs Electric with some of the electric. And there's a lot of other people that went in there. All the people that donated money.
Fakes and Hooker provided the raw material.
Fakes and Hooker provided everything. Ryan Ald's been gracious and worked with us, and screws, hooks, wood, paint, whatever we needed. He was great, and just a beautiful place. We've had a few pictures made in there and stuff, and the LED lights and all that stuff. Kids like it, and it smells better, looks better. Cleans up easier, and we're just glad to have been able to do that, and give them something to be proud of.
Chuck, thanks for the visit as always. I appreciate it. I know you're not feeling 100% right now, but thank you. Have a good trip to Antioch, and we'll catch up with you. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tommy.
Chuck Gentry, head coach of the Blue Devils, with us here on this first segment of Coach's Night Out. And let me run down our sponsors once again. Advantage Home Solutions, LLC, Darrell Tidwell, loan originator with Southern Bank of Tennessee. The Salas Realty Group on the Public Square, THW Insurance Services, LLC. Cumberland University Athletics, D.T. McCall and Sons, Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Franklin, and Cookeville. We'll be back right after these words. The Wilson Post, you can get that in the racks. You can go to our office, 216 Hartman Drive, and pick up a copy if you like. And you play your cards right. You come, some of these players, we'll have some of these in the locker rooms for the players as the season progresses. And one thing Coach Gentry wanted me to touch on, the Game Day Blue Devil shirts are available by way of Facebook and Twitter. Southeast Impressions is doing those. You can order online, and those shirts will be delivered to your home. There's going to be no shirts made up that you can go walk in and buy. All shirts are going to be made to order, and follow Blue Devil Football on Twitter. That's at BDP Football, and Coach Chuck Gentry's Facebook page and the Blue Devil Football Foundation page has those. Tim Mathis, head coach at Cumberland University, with me here on Coach's Night Out. And my headline this week, Tim, after I saw you guys scrimmage on Saturday, was you're kind of in a time crunch because you don't have a month to prepare for the season opener. You open the 26th at home, and you've only got really 3 weeks to get ready.
Right. We a week earlier this year, so a little bit more of a time crunch, and you just gotta. The biggest thing probably as you start that is make sure that you start special teams early enough, and you get everything in before the season starts. I think that was probably been our biggest crunch is making sure we get all our special teams and our knowing what guys are going to do the special teams and all that.
Well, I know in Saturday scrimmage there was a long punt period where you wanted to be sure to get the number one punt team in, get the number twos in there, get some snaps, get some punts. A lot of work devoted during that time. A
lot of work, and actually in the scrimmage, I think not even the special teams part of it would tell you how thorough we were. I mean, I think we got 107 plays in for on offense and defense, which is crazy. We probably had too many, but we probably had 30 or 40 snaps of punt return, kickoff return. we didn't get to our extra point because it was going to be at the end, and we kind of got run off the field with lightning. And then then it came a frog strangler, and it tornado warnings and everything else, but we got off the field in time.
The plan was to scrimmage at 10 o'clock, and you bumped it to 9 o'clock because of the weather. So
we had
to get some good work
we got great work in, and it was good that we bumped it, or we wouldn't have got nowhere near that work in. So we basically got everything in, because we've been, from the get-go, we've worked extra point and field goal. We work it every day. There's not a day we don't do that because it's so vitally important. So we've gotten that work in, so we really got what we needed to get in.
With everything that's gone on in the off season, when folks come to that first game, August 26th, 6 o'clock kickoff, they're going to notice some changes on the outside and some things they won't see on the inside of the stadium. Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, it's been just a phenomenal off season. The biggest thanks is just for our administration. Coach Pavin has fought tirelessly for us, and Dr. Stum, it'd be easy to say no to a bunch of things, but he just went out on faith and said, yes, let's do it. So, with a new scoreboard with a huge video board on it, I mean, it's like going to a drive-in movie theater. I mean, it's huge. It's a massive structure, and it's really big. It's super nice, and with our recruits in the north end zone by the school board, we've been putting a tent up there to kind of host our recruits, and we feed them in there, and that's where we talk to them as coaches. So they built an 80 by 40 pavilion there. It's got fans in it. It's got lights. It's got a sink in it. And, if you need that, they're putting big screen TVs in the corners. Nobody we play is going to have stuff like that. And does that matter? Today it does matter. And the kids, you can see it on a large scale in the SEC. They go to the shiny things. It's a arms race, who has the best stuff, and the changes that have been made. And then what they can't see is, we got a brand new locker room. We, blood, sweat, and tears we painted the whole thing ourselves as coaches. So it got completely gutted.
You hauled everything out first.
It got completely gutted. We repainted it, and then got a brand new lockers, replaced every locker with brand new lockers, and got all those put in. And it's just, obviously you've seen, it's just amazing the change that our program has. That you bring them in there to the locker room now, and it's, there's nobody that has a nicer locker room in our conference. Probably even Division II football around us, probably nobody has as nice.
Well, you have to get 130 some odd kids in there, and the lockers, if I remember right, Tim, they're kind of a composite material, aren't they?
They are, and they're real. They're real nice.
Easy to clean.
Easy to clean, and we put new flooring too. So we got new rubber flooring in there, and it's nice because we had about 3 different types of lockers in there.
Yeah.
And for everybody to have the same locker, it all looks the same. The lockers aren't as big as the old ones, which is actually a good thing, because the locker room just looks bigger now because there's more space in there, because the lockers just don't take up as much. And we were able to take out some rows because the lockers were smaller, so we got a more open space where you can meet at halftime more instead of in little bitty smaller compartments now. So, it's life altering. That's really big for the kids we have here now, not for recruits necessarily. They're going to like seeing it, but for those kids to see that, Cumberland is serious about them starting this Phoenix Foundation and raising the money, and hopefully starting this January the turf goes in, that when you do all that, the kids are saying, this is really good. And the alumni, they've been promised this for a long time, for 20 years. And now that we're doing it, so many of them like, man, this is really, they're going to jump on board because it's really happening. It's actually happened. And there's no more of, okay, it might happen the next year or two. It's happening. And I can't be more grateful to our administration for doing it.
Switching gears back to the personnel, you lost some good guys to graduation. You do have some experience coming back. I know on the offensive side of the football, pretty good 1-2 punch in that backfield with Holloway and with number 23 back there at tailback. Talk about those guys a little. Traylon Shepard, the tailback.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
experience you've got back there.
And really, even before you go into the offense line, we did have, I think we had 17 or 18 seniors, but the thing about it is, I think of those that graduated, I think only 8 really played a lot. So we got a lot of guys, kind of going into that. A lot of guys that are coming back, they were young, but they played. And so we're an experienced young team. They're still kind of young, but we're experienced. Luke is, having that first year, even though he's a redshirt freshman, he had never played college football. And so he's got a whole year of playing. And we didn't change the systems, new offensive coordinator, and I'm sure we'll talk about here in a minute. But so the plays are the same, and he did a pretty good job last year. And Traylon is, you can't ask for a better kid. And then when he gets tired, Nick Burge is as good as he is too. So, in the backfield, we feel really, really, really good. And we got a lot of guys returning. Shaw Niblett's coming back from his ACL tears.
He's only been there about 8 years now.
I think he graduated 2 years after I did high school. I mean, he's been there a while, but it's going to be, it's awesome, and hopefully his knees hold up that we'll have him back, because he's a good weapon for us. And Elijah Gaskin will be back. He'll be. Isaac Finch has had a really good spring and then fall. Watertown product that he's going to get to play a good bit. So we got a lot of guys coming back, and then we mixed in some really talented freshmen that we have coming in that will have some speed and stuff that will help us a bunch that we really hadn't necessarily had a whole bunch of, but they'll throw in the speed part of it. And then most of our offensive line is back from last year.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to, because deep down inside you're an O-line guy.
Yes.
And that's where it all starts. And talk about some of that personnel up there. Who's coaching them?
Yeah. Jackson Bray is our offensive line coach now. He came from Arkansas, Monticello. He's a fantastic offensive line coach. And so we got most of Ronaldo Marmolejo is really the only guy we lost on the offensive line. And he was important. He was a leader of the offensive line. But that whole line's coming back. Again, we got some talented freshmen and redshirt freshmen that'll help. And we got transfer Mitchell Bear that played at Friendship, that played at Lindsey Wilson. He'll be back at some point. He's coming off an ACL tear that he had last October at Lindsey. And so, he'll be in the mix. Trayvon Wiggins is coming back. He had knee surgery in the spring too, so he's kind of easing back into it. And then Preston Cresswell played last year. He'll play again. Brody Hall's been in our starting center for the last 2 years, so he's going in his third year as starting center. Will Sanchez is going from right tackle to left tackle. We're just moving him to the other side of the ball. And then we got, some young guys. Logan Martin, that if you look at him, he's not big enough to play, but he's as mean as an ugly old lady in a beauty contest. He's just mean, which if you're going to be small, you better be mean. And he is. He's a really good kid and a really good player. And then probably for the first game, Paxton Manis will probably play and start a lot. But we've got 3 or 4 really good freshmen that are going to push people to play, and they're going to have to help us with our depth. But we really have, for the first time since I've been here, finally 9 or 10 guys that can play on the offensive line. And we've really been playing with 6 or 7 and holding our breath, hoping nobody got hurt. But we finally got a bunch of guys that can play on the offensive line.
Bobby Brown is now the offensive coordinator. And folks in Wilson County will remember when Bobby was the head football coach at Lebanon, he was relentless. And I guess the best way I could describe what I recall about Bobby's offenses, they were a up-tempo, run the ball down your throat offensive game plan, play action off of that run game, which fits exactly into kind of what you like to do.
Well, we're not changing anything. The only thing we changed, and it's taking the kids a little bit, is we're running the same play. He just want to use his terminology. So, which I was fine with. I was just like, I don't want to change anything of what we're doing because we're starting to get good at it. But I love him. First of all, the biggest thing I love about it is he's an older guy and it creates stability. And Bobby's not looking to go to University of Tennessee or anywhere and move his family. He's a Cumberland guy. He's been with us for a long time. I kind of talked him into retiring and coming with us full time. And he's eat up with football, and he's a really, really, really good football coach. And he I like the way he does, because we're going to have, you kind of described it, we're going to have an identity. We're going to run the football. But we're also going to do the RPOs and the play actions and all that. But we're going to have an identity where if it's 3rd and 1, we're going to get the yard that we need to get. We're not going to try to throw it 3 times to get 1 yard. We're going to run it. We're going to let you know we're going to run it, and we're going to run it.
Defensively, Torian Smith back as defensive coordinator. You guys have kind of got an identity on the defensive side of the football team.
He's super. I think he's the best defensive coach in the Mid-South Conference. I really do. He is a brilliant offensive mind. That he really knows what he wants to do on defense, and he gets his kids to play hard. They play hard, and I'm excited about our defense again because we didn't really lose a lot. We had some younger guys play last year, but again, they've played 10 games and coming in, so we're still quasi going to be young on defense too. But we got a lot of guys coming back. They're going to play, and we got guys that are healthy again. Trevor Griffin was out with shoulder problems all last year. He's back at safety. We got Boston Follis is a year older at linebacker. He was in there last year, but he's kind of the leader in the linebacker corps this year. Jalen Brown, to me, Jalen Brown's kind of like Shaw Niblett. I think he's been there 18 years. It just seems like Jalen's been here a long time. He's really good on the D-line, and I think we're solid in a lot of places there. We've got some depth in the secondary that we hadn't had in a while that I think is really positive. And we got some key transfer guys in. Derek Taylor that played at Greenbrier, that was a preferred walk-on at Tennessee.
He sticks out.
He's 6. Well, he's 6. When you're a safety and you're 6'2.5", pushing 6'3", you kind of notice those safeties aren't in the Mid-South Conference very, very much. So he kind of sticks out there. But he's a good kid. Desmond Wallace came to us from Mississippi College. He's a defensive end that came to us in the spring, and you couldn't ask for a better. I wish he was my son. He's such a good kid. And
Mississippi College, a good D2 program.
Great D2 program in the Gulf South. It's the best conference in the country, and he played at Mississippi College. So he wasn't somebody that stood on the sidelines at Mississippi College. He played for him, started for him. So, we got a good blend of some transfers that come in that's going to help us. Zylan McKinney came in the spring from, I'm not going to remember if it's Morehead State or Murray State. He came from one of them as a DB, and he's really going to help us. He's local from this area. He's from the Murfreesboro area. I think he's from Riverdale. I think I might be saying the wrong school, but he's from the Murfreesboro area. So he helps us a whole lot in the secondary. And then with the guys we got back, I'm excited about our team because I think we finally got the depth that we've been lacking.
Will you roll on the defensive front as you like to do? Try to get 3 or 4 new guys, get them in there.
And we're starting. We're looking at that. That's one thing we've been looking at the last couple of days. It always goes. With the way the NAIA works, is how many we can fit under that quote salary cap to get. But we're wanting to kind of do like we've done in the past. Our really, really good years on defense is when we rolled 8 or 9 cats in there and just kept them fresh all the time. That's a huge deal on if you can get the defensive line to stay fresh. But we're looking to do that. We've got 9 or 10 we want to travel, so which is a good problem.
I looked at the roster the other day, and I noticed more Middle Tennessee kids than I have seen recently. They're finding out about Cumberland, aren't
They
they?
are, and it's been interesting. It's weird. Last year, I mean, it was what it was. We had a lot that said no. This year, we had a whole bunch that said yes, and which is a good thing. And now, as you're recruiting them in and bringing them in, when they see what's going on, because we had several that didn't come here last year, and then they call our coaches that were recruiting them, and it's like, man, y'all are doing this, and adding this. I should have come there, And
Isn't that part of the
unfortunately, but that's part of the deal, and that's why it's important to get this stuff. Is facilities are not going to win you a game. None of that. When you line up, like you said, it's the 22 on the field that really matter. But that's something they look at now, right, wrong, or indifferent. But we were really excited about this class because a lot of guys in our area said yes, and that best football in the state of Tennessee is Middle Tennessee.
Well, and you have had satellite camps, exposing your program to kids in different areas, and maybe they don't bite that first year, but if they don't find a fit, I've always thought Cumberland, and you look at the other sports, I said it's kind of like the Statue of Liberty, Tim. Give us you're tired, you're worn out.
Right.
There's somebody that doesn't fit here, but maybe they fit at Cumberland.
Right. And we got the last two classes we've had are, knock on wood or whatever, if they stay together, we've had them just repeated two great classes after another. Last year I talked about that was the most talented class we got, and then this year is more talented. We're gonna have a lot of freshmen that probably travel and play with us. They're talented. We have 3 freshman linebackers that they're dudes. They're boy dogs, and they like to hunt, and you got to play them. We're going to play the best, and that's attractive too to young guys. If you can come in and have a chance, and the best thing, kind of what you said about the satellite camps, is last year we signed 19 kids from our camp.
Really?
So, we try to do that this year. We want you to come to our camp. We can evaluate you. We're going to stay in touch with you if you're willing to come to our camps. And our camps have been successful. Those satellite camps have been huge for us that we've had. We've had a lot of kids from the Chattanooga area this past year because we had our camp at Walker Valley. We've done real well in our camp in Northwest Georgia of poaching a lot of kids from Division II schools down there and Reinhardt, and you make all them mad, but we've done a really good job of getting kids out of North Georgia.
Has class actually started yet?
It starts Monday.
Monday.
Next week.
So you've kind of got a captive audience.
Oh, yeah.
For that. For that preseason camp.
Right. We you stress, and I've been stressing since the start that when school starts, that's what's important. But right now, this is your school. Football is your school. So, you stress, especially to the young guys. You stress that because I think the biggest obstacle a young kid has coming in is learning what to do, offensively or defensively, what side of the ball, and then how quick you pick up to the speed of the game, because it's going to be faster. And I think the quality of who we got as freshmen, some of them have caught up with the speed of the game pretty quick, and then it's just about learning. Do I know what I need to do? But getting them in here 3 or 4 weeks before school starts is a big thing, because it's football 101. You're taking a class in football. And so, you try to hint into them that you're trying to get good study habits by, hey, you need to be looking at your play. You don't have any school work right now. That is your school work, looking at the playbook and doing all that. And the ones that are going to play here this first game are the ones that have done that seriously.
Well, it's a trust thing. You've got to be able to trust when you put a kid in there at linebacker that if you call a stunt, he's going to be where he's supposed to be.
Bingo.
If the back comes out of the backfield, he's going to have him. And once that trust is there, turn him loose and let him play.
Right. And that's the defense is a perfect example of it. They need to be turned loose and let play. They don't need to be thinking. They need to be running. They need to be flying. And in the same way on offense, if you're thinking too much, you're going to slow down and not do what you're supposed to do because you're thinking too much. So, as a freshman, should you play? Probably not. But we're going to play the best, and and I think we've got some really talented guys that can do it, and some great returners.
You've got the 26th will be that first game. You had a scrimmage this past Saturday. You're going to kind of lighten that scrimmage up a little bit because you play in 2 weeks.
Right. We won't do a whole lot of. It'll be more as far as the length of it, but it'll be scripted scrimmage more so than just calling a bunch of plays, because Bobby just kind of called off the hip Saturday. This will be more scripted. We'll have probably, red zone situations, goal line, backed up or whatever, but it might just be, at that scrimmage, and I don't know if you were there right at the beginning, but that first one we had, I think we started at the 20 or 25. That first group went on a 16-play drive, and it was just, off the cup, you're calling whatever, but we won't have that type of. We're not going to let them go 16 plays, because now we're trying to just ease back off the body so they're ready to go next Saturday.
And it's on top of
us. It is
really
on top of us.
Tim, thanks for the visit as always. I appreciate it. And the Phoenix Foundation, you can go online to Cumberland Athletics and find the Phoenix Foundation link. Former players, fans, family of current players. It's a great opportunity to get involved. And if football's not your thing, and if you want to help softball, there's a way to do that.
Absolutely. Any sport that you want to give to on that, and I think it's a great thing they started as we kicked that off is actually start a giving branch that's just about athletics. Cumberland really hadn't necessarily done that. You could do it, but now they got a whole part of the giving part of Cumberland that's just about you want to give to athletics, and I think it's tremendous that they've started to do that.
Thanks for the visit. We always appreciate it.
Thank you. Go Phoenix.
Tim Mathis, head coach at Cumberland, with us here on Coach's Night Out. We'll take a break, and we'll be back in the final segment of our show from Town Square Social. We're upstairs. We'll be back in just a minute. Our regular guy came down with the shingles this morning.
Oh, that's gross.
So I pulled these two guys out of the bullpen, and they're good.
Chuck just told
Oh, the kidney.
Dad just passed one.
Oh, wow.
And I told them, I said, you can go ahead and shoot me in the head if I got one of them. I'm not tough enough.
Yeah, he said, I got no business being here tonight. But he said he was in the emergency room today.
Yeah. I remember Dad doing one when we had White House one night, and I remember seeing him pass it before the game in the locker room bathroom.
Oh,
and told myself right then and there, I hope my genetics do not carry that.
Have you heard about the issues in Sumner with all those facilities? It's not just beach.
Oh, I know.
Because they're all old.
As soon as that stuff came out, I was like, look out, because for 100% I know about Portland.
Well, they said they may condemn the whole thing.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And then Gallatin's home section was built in 42.
I sat in it the other night.
Play that game.
I'm okay with it. I'm not mad about it.
Well, it's a shame that Gallatin, for all it has they endured a director of schools who wouldn't spend any money on facilities the whole time he was there.
And what looks the worst is you have Taj Mahal over there. And I mean, have you been to it?
I have seen pictures, and I need to go because they said the indoor facility rivals any college around.
This is the way I put it to somebody. You know how somebody says, go to this movie, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
You go and it's like, oh, good. I wish they had said it'd be great. I looked at those pictures, I was like, this is incredible. And then I went and looked at it, and it's more incredible.
Have you seen our preview? I did a little thing for Donovan in there.
Really?
Yeah, I'll show you. Just take it with you when you go.
Okay, good.
Back for our final segment of our kickoff show for the 2023 season. We're at Town Square Social. It's Coach's Night Out. Week 1, Mount Juliet gets a jump on everybody else. They've got Cane Ridge coming to the Mel Brown Athletic Complex, Roger Perry Field, Thursday for a 7 o'clock My TV 30 game. with the Ravens at Cane Ridge. And then on Friday, Forest is at Watertown, Republic at Mount Juliet Christian, Lebanon at Antioch, Green Hill at Northeast, Wilson Central at Rossview, Friendship at Clarksville Academy. And Trey, I would think they could have probably got a bus deal to send all three of those teams to Montgomery County at one time. What are the odds on three locals going all the way up there? And you've been there before. That's not an easy trip to make when you got to get school buses to go.
We just made it. Matter of fact, we scrimmaged Clarksville in the second week of camp. And to tie into that, I thought about saying this anyway if you asked me how camp went. Our first scrimmage against Hendersonville, which was at home, had a heat delay where we didn't start till 7:15. Our second scrimmage, which was at Clarksville, was a fire drill to get out of school, basically. Got there. Their field was wet. They did what I would have done, but they put us on a practice field to warm up. It was a good 3/4 of a mile from the field. And then Innsworth last week, we're halfway there and thinking that, because last year we scrimmaged them at 6 at our place, so time was not something I asked about. Probably should have. Halfway there, oh, hey, by the way, it starts at 7. So we had a long tour of Innsworth High School.
Which is
It's great.
It's like a resort.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So the upside, I guess, is that playing a game on Thursday night on television is not that big a deal now because we've been pretty battle tested in fall camp with some stuff.
Your program has not been shy from playing early. You kind of thrive on that. Let's get it all in and let's go ahead and play.
I like it. I like it for a couple reasons. Number one, I feel like high school football's become a thing whether people are like it or not, and I'm as old school as anybody, but it needs to be an event now, and because on Friday night you're butting heads with things no matter what. Thursday night, not as much. Our school starting later doesn't put that big of an impact on the kids as far as that goes, and then what we do, and this is a big shout out to our staff and our team, our parents too, but we get a lot done on Sunday afternoon. After church, we go for about 2 hours and really alleviate some of that time during the week. But on a Thursday night earlier kickoff, we say Sunday is Monday, Monday is Tuesday, so on and so forth. I've been so mixed up this week. I thought you were having your show on Thursday. So.
Well, thanks for getting it figured out and getting up here. How has the preseason work been? Because you've lost some very good guys. Morton comes to mind. Cisse Daniel come to mind. Guys who were impact players for you. I know I'm leaving out the big kid who signed with Tennessee. Bustle, who signed with Tennessee, the offensive lineman. You got some good quality, though, coming back, don't you?
Yeah, and it's different. I mean, you highlighted some of the right people right there. In that scenario last year, and I'll take Aiden as an example. I could use Cisse on defense or Darius, but Aiden's probably a good example because as good a talent as he was at left tackle, you did a lot of breath holding on his health. So we call that getting a phone call. We won't use the word injured, but if he gets a phone call and the next guy comes in, it's not their fault, but it's a drop-off.
Sure.
It's different. And so your schematically, you have to do some things differently. Cisse, if he got that phone call at free safety, we would have had to have changed some things.
On both sides of the
football. Both sides of football. So now there's people like that, but I feel like our depth is a little better this year. It's been tested a little bit in camps. We've been banged up a little bit, but not to the point where it's like we have to change scheme or do this or that or the other. And that's good for the coordinators. It's good for the continuity, for the players to learn what we're doing. It's good for special teams because we feel like we can still play our best people there. So that's been a real strong point. And in order to get to that, we've had to have some people really have good – we don't call it off season, we call it second season, but we've had some really good second seasons this winter and summer.
You got some good folks on that offensive side of the football. Travers, your quarterback, is a guy who kind of got thrust into things last year, and he has benefited from that. He's the guy.
There's no doubt about it, and he does it on the field, off the field.
Just a junior.
Just a junior, and that's going to be a common theme. The neat part about our dynamic this year, and our theme this year is We 23. You know, and when we get into a issue, I tell them to turn their M upside down because I don't want any me guys. And I feel like we don't have that. I feel like there's a lot of continuity there. And the best way to do that, I can say that stuff all day long, but when you have a Tyler Travers that adopts it and does it, right, and he's not the only one, there's plenty of them, that makes things a whole lot easier. Our leadership council meets a couple times a week. I've got a couple of assistant coaches do a great job of that, and they usually do a word that they focus on, but we're teaching them how to peer lead, because you know as well as I do, when you're in a locker room, you'll listen to the coach for 10 to 15 seconds and then, but if it's a peer doing it and he's modeling it first, saying it second, then usually you're going to get good results. Tyler Travers does that.
Who are some guys up front, Trey, offensive line, because that's where it all starts? Mm-hmm. Who are some guys that we need to make mention of and guys people will notice?
So my first one would be Gary Johnson. He's coming back. He is returning senior, or he's a senior center from last year's Most Improved Player on our team award last year. Couldn't be more proud of that guy from the way he's worked from his freshman year to senior year. So obviously big expectation of what he's going to do. Dylan Ott, another senior on the offensive front. And when we highlight these juniors athletically, that's what I was getting to a minute ago. The senior class, I was telling somebody the other day, numbers are important. Don't get me wrong. You're going to play and win in big-time football and 6A football. You got to have people. You got to have bodies. But quality is more important than quantity. So I could have 37 seniors, but if 14 of them are really good players and the rest of them, eat sandwiches and wear a jersey, I don't get a lot of quality out of that, right? We don't have that many seniors. I think we have 20, 21, but they all have impacts, and they have great, relationships with the junior class. That stuff goes really well. And you asked me about the offensive line, I went off on that. Charles Pride, Jr., is played a little bit last year. He has a massive upside. He's had a really good camp. He's locked in and done a good job. Sam Gravely, another junior, that's very versatile, that can play in different spots in the line. We've had a couple get banged up that I think will be back in a couple weeks. But that group played when we were healthy at about 8 or 9. Now we're maybe more like 6, but still some quality there.
Defensive side of the football, what's your team going to look like?
Front seven's back, and you notice how fast I answered that question because that's extremely important. They're led by Will Zerniak and Cason Walls, who I think between the two of them had about 220 tackles last year.
And Will fight you. He was a medalist in the state wrestling tournament.
He is carved out of stone. And you want to talk about like being the complete football player. Wakes up every morning, eats the same thing for breakfast, same thing for lunch, same thing just so regimented about his schedule. And a lot of times wrestlers too are that way too, particularly about. But he's done a great job leading that defense. A lot of seniors in the defensive front too. The DBs are junior heavy, but they've sort of been a sort of surprise position to me in how much ground that they've covered. There've been some guys that's played, but they've really started to gel together pretty well. And they've been tested. I mean, Hendersonville, Clarksville, Ensworth, pretty good run on things.
Oh, yeah.
In fall camp, so we've gotten some good looks on that too.
Special teams always a point of emphasis at Mount Juliet. Talk about some of the guys. It's going to be snapping, punting, kicking, those guys.
Well, the bad news is we lost a Richetti at long snapper. He's going to Austin Peay, and word is maybe the starting long snapper as a freshman. The good news is his little brother's taking his place, and so he's done a good job this offseason getting ready, and Jack's looked good in camp. Holder Baylor Osborne is fun because you can do a lot. And
baseball player.
Yes, sir. I think he's ranked #1 catcher in the state for his class, and I know he puts in the man hours, and we can put Travers there too and do that. And then our punting and kicking is handled by Daniel Echeverria, who's back. He's going to be a junior. He's had a good off season. We have a freshman that's pushing, and his name's Tate Murbitz. And
pushing both spots?
Yes. and
Really?
more so probably kicking than punting. But he's very. There's things that you look for in a kicker, and you know you got something special. It's not that they hit the 55-yarder, right? If we're putting people in a position to make a 55-yarder win a game, that's more on us than it is the kicker.
Right.
Inside of 40, don't miss. You know, operation, accuracy, get height on the ball, placement on kickoffs, and this kid, I'm gonna quit calling him a kid because he's not kicking like a kid, you know. So, but Daniel is doing great too. It's not like he's doing anything bad, so that's a good luxury to have two guys there.
What about the return game?
So we've got obviously Harrison Edwards and John Michael Crudup that have been two really dynamic sophomore running backs that'll be back there on kickoffs. Deion Waller, that's one of our corners, will be back there, can handle that. And then on punts, we can really shuffle a few people. Isaiah Roseberry, our safety, has done it for a while, and he's really adept at it. And then obviously Baylor. But, you know, we kind of hang our hat on going after punts, you know, and we don't call that unit a punt return unit. We call it a punt block unit. So biggest thing you can do right there is get away from one that's been shanked and don't mess it up.
Cane Ridge, first one on the schedule, Thursday night, my TV 30 game. Cane Ridge has been a quality football program. Talk about those guys. What do you know about Cane Ridge?
The first thing is, who did this schedule, right?
Well,
No, well, I'll tell you this, and I mean this. Eddie Woods is a heck of a head coach. It's obvious. They've won 7 or 8 regional championships under him, been to the big dance, I think, at least once, maybe twice. Perennial quarterfinal, semifinal team, 11-2 last year. You know, lost a tough game to Beach in the quarters, but just solid. And, you know, obviously speed, and not just like straight line speed. They have that, but lateral speed and the speed up front that they have is really disruptive. They always have really good linebacker play.
will they stun a lot, or were they going to? It sounds like they're not going to sit there.
And well, in the past, yes. This group, and this lends itself to, again, what we were talking about earlier, like who do you have, and, you know, kind of set the table from there. But this group seems to kind of read and react better, which is kind of what you want, because if you read well, you don't have to blitz as much,
Yeah.
right? Because you're going to get that action, right? But they're tough. I mean, and the good part about it for us is, I mean, this is a good test early. I feel like in, 20 days now that we've had Hendersonville, Clarksville, who I believe will be a 10-0 football team, Innsworth, and now Cane Ridge, we're going to know what we are after tomorrow night and what we, you know, need to do. But I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. I love that Friday Night Rivals is doing this Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing to kick it off. I think it's great for high school football, and people are like me; they should be itching to get out and watch football games. So
Well, and again, you're not going up against somebody else's game. This is a great one to go see, and I know your kids are excited. I know the Mount Juliet faithful are ready to go. What an atmosphere that'll be on Thursday night, and I know your student section will be absolutely nuts. They're not normal. They'll be wild.
I don't want them to be.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I think, just to be honest with you, I was on a ladder about an hour and a half ago trying to get one of the help get the banner hung, but we take pride in our facilities. You know, obviously the guy that got the field named after him does a lot of work to earn it. He's happy with the results of the way the field looks right now, so good with me. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really good atmosphere, and I think it'll sort of set the tone for what I think is going to be a really good season. I mean, let's be honest, like 2020, 2021, there's been things really throughout that we haven't gotten to really kick off, and I feel like we're back to that point, which is a huge blessing, right? And so,
How do you like having all the Wilson County big schools in the same region?
I like it. I mean, I like it from a scheduling standpoint first. I like it from a logistics standpoint about getting road trips and the freshmen and JV, because you're playing in all of those things. Obviously, it puts more weight on it from the standpoint of it being in the regional game and setting you up for the playoffs and those kind of things. But I think it's the way it needs to be. I mean, obviously, when the county envisioned Green Hill, it got big quick, and this county's growing, and so it's good that we're all in that same vicinity, I guess, as far as numbers go. I think without going down the rabbit hole, I think there's a lot coming from TSSAA soon enough about how we're going to navigate the future of football, and I'll sort of leave it at that, but you can take a really close look at college football and get a pretty good idea. There's a lot of pros and cons, but here's the reason I brought that up in the first place. We're very blessed in our county to have the facilities that we have, the backing that we have. One thing, I can't speak for all of them, but one thing I say about Mount Juliet that I really appreciate is as it continues to grow, the community aspect's still there. The traditional values and that thing is still there. And that's what makes high school football. And so, from that standpoint, I'm excited the county's back in one league.
Well, and there's nothing like game night.
Oh, no.
And when helmets are $350 a pop, you need that crowd.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Absolutely. And especially when you go on road trips, fall camp, and so gets back, and somebody stole I said, somebody didn't steal anything.
Yeah.
Right? You left it at Innsworth or you left it at Clarksville. Yeah. Now I'm really letting y'all into the day-to-day operations, but a lot of fun. Budgeting's fun.
Yeah. Trey, thanks for the visit as
Yes, sir.
always. I appreciate it. Trey Perry, head coach at Mount Juliet, with us. They've got Cane Ridge on Thursday night. Let me run down that schedule again. Cane Ridge at Mount Juliet on Thursday. MyTV 30 football game on television. Forest at Watertown on Friday night. Republic at Mount Juliet Christian. Lebanon at Antioch. Green Hill at Northeast. Wilson Central at Rossview. Friendship Christian defending Division II. Class A state champ goes to Clarksville Academy. And our sponsors. We could not do this show without our sponsorship. Advantage Home Solutions, LLC, Donnie Self and Rob Painter. Daryl Tidwell, new to the program, we thank you. Loan originator with Southern Bank of Tennessee. The Salas Realty Group, Public Square, Lebanon, THW Insurance Service, LLC. Cumberland University Athletics, D.T. McCall and Sons, Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Franklin, and Cookeville. For everybody associated with Town Square Social and our guys behind the camera tonight, OAG Productions, Richard and Thomas, thank you. I'm Tommy Bryan, and I will talk to you later.